Everybody, welcome back to Enjoying Retirement. Today we're going to take a kayaking trip on 9 Mile Pond in the Everglades National Park. The Everglades are located at the southern end of Florida, just before you start driving out onto the Keys. It's a very large, beautiful park, and the 9 Mile Pond is about 30 minutes away from the Cove Visitors Center. And then once you're there, you're going to cross the pond itself, and then this trail kind of follows. Right there, I'm taking the shortcut, which makes it a 3.5 mile loop instead of the 5 mile loop if you were to take the whole thing. It was a very windy day when we were there, and that made it a little bit more of a challenge. First thing to note is when you are there, the very first entry point is located at the far end of that pond. Here we thought it was someplace else, took a little side excursion. That's okay, it got us out of the wind, it was very pretty, and we just backed our way out of there and kept going. Now the trail is marked by those little white poles you see there on the left side. And as you can see, that one is actually back in the red mangrove trees a little bit. And that makes it a challenge on this trail. You have to be constantly looking out where you are. There's a lot of turns and twists you can take. They are fairly well marked by these white poles, but you do have to be on the lookout so that make sure you see them. And even sometimes they're kind of in a position where you don't know if it's marking for you to go left or to go right. So just keep an eye out, try to look for the pole beyond the one you're seeing, and hope for the best. It is possible to get lost in here. There are many twists and turns, so just be careful. Oh, I also want to note, if you have Verizon or
Consider this a gondola ride.
T-Mobile, your phones will not work here. That means your maps won't work here, it means your internet won't work here, and you can't look it up to see to get some help if you get lost. So I'm told AT&T may work here, but I know for a fact that Verizon and T-Mobile do not. Make sure you pick up the trail guide at a visitor center before you head out, which we did. And then somehow I forgot to bring it with me. So this was a little bit more exciting than it needed to be.
Left, so let's go that way.
The guide will warn you that February through May the water can be very shallow, and that indeed was the case on our March trip there. I had put the skeg on the bottom of the Sea Eagle 420X Explorer kayak that we're using to help it track better in the open water. What I didn't count on was it being shallow and having all the seagrass and plants underneath. It just stopped us at this point, so I got out, changed it, and you can see there how thick it was. You just could not move with the skeg on the bottom. You'll see a little bit later on. I will put the camera underwater to show you what the vegetation was and how shallow the water was. It was a very pretty, very nice trip. As you can see, the wind, though, was a challenge, and the entire way out, we were mostly fighting ourselves into the wind. On the way back, it was a little bit nicer because the wind gave us a push, but it was a challenge pushing through the shallow water into the wind a bit, but well worth it. Next time I'll try to go when the water's a little bit deeper and the wind is a little bit calmer. The other thing I'm going to change is I had only my kayak paddles with me. Those are about 8 feet long. What you really need is a canoe type single paddle for going through some of these tunnels that you find yourself going through underneath the mangrove trees that they have. That would make it a lot easier. There was a lot of times when I took the paddle apart, only used one end of it. Other times when I pushed us off, like a gondolier might be pushing you in other places. But we made it, and it was good. Keep an eye out for those poles. you really got to pay attention. You got to really know where you're going when you come out of an area so that you don't make an inadvertent turn. The water was very clear, as I said, very shallow, but it was pleasant. No mosquitoes, no bugs. Unfortunately, also no alligators, no major wildlife, no major fish. So we're kind of disappointed with that, but otherwise it was a very good trip. Now, when you get to about marker number 44, you have an option of taking the shortcut, which goes straight ahead, or you continue on the main channel to your right. If you take the shortcut, it makes it a 3.5 mile trip. If you take the full course, it's 5 miles. Given the wind we had and other challenges we were facing, we were happy to take the shortcut. Overall, it still took us about 3 hours to go the 3.5 miles. National Park Service will tell you that it takes about 4 to 5 hours to go the full trail. So now we are back on the return path. The wind is getting a little bit better, cooperating with us, and now we can enjoy the trip a little bit more. Notice on the return path, if you do get lost, you can often know which way to go because there is less vegetation in the channel. You can see it right there. I later learned that's because this used to be an old airboat trail, and the airboat just ripped up everything underneath it. So you take the good with the bad. My wife is trying to keep the kayak clean. She didn't see what I had done to the backside, so that was good. Here we're going underneath, give you a little bit view of the clear water, and I'm only drafting about 3 inches on this kayak, and I've got about 1 inch or 2 of clearance, so the water was pretty shallow. Make sure you have enough water for the vessel you're taking out there. And now it's time for a break. Don't tell my wife. When you come back, you're still following the poles. You're doing a pretty good job. You'll get to pole, I believe it's 115, which will then lead you through the final mangrove trees to get back to what are 2 smaller ponds. And then once you exit to that first smaller pond, you're going to be passing marker number 116. Here we are. I believe we're entering the final stretch at this point. I've taken the pole apart and I'm using only 1/2 of it, combination of paddling and pushing. It's very pretty. It's a very nice trip. I'll be much better prepared next time and I think I'll enjoy it more. But I do want to make sure the wind isn't blowing as it was. Here we are. We're coming out. We just passed pole number 116. And we're looking for the next pole, and there isn't one. If you have the map, you can see you just go to the far end of that first pond, and there will be a little opening taking you into the second pond, which again, you got to go to the far end of, and there's another very small opening that takes you back into 9 Mile Pond itself. Now we're back into the wind, fighting our way back to shore, and we are done. If you ever get a chance to go out there, I do recommend it. Just be prepared. But it's a lot of fun. Hope you enjoyed this. As always, I am enjoying retirement.